Welcome along. Today, we are diving into the number one thing that leads directly to more paying clients, and that is effective market research. When you conduct effective market research and tailor your services and offers to match what you learn, people will buy your stuff. But so many of the clients that I've coached over the years miss this really vital step. So, in today's episode, I'm going to show you how to do market research effectively and give you a bunch of questions to ask so that you elicit the information that you actually need. So, most of us set up a business to help clients improve their health. And we, as highly qualified healthcare professionals, know exactly what they need, what we need to educate them on, and what they need support with when implementing our advice. But what they need often isn't what they want. And when you try to attract clients by talking about what they need in order to improve their health, you'll find that not many people buy from you. And that's because people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. So, how does market research fit into all of this? By definition, it's all about talking to your potential clients, gathering their thoughts and ideas, and assimilating that information so you find out precisely what it is that your ideal client actually wants to buy. Imagine you've invited a group of new friends around for a lavish dinner party. You spend all week putting together the menu. You've been shopping at the posh delis and you've been creating this elaborate seafood feast. It could not be more perfect. But then your guests arrive. They've got ravenous appetites. They're ready to be wined and dined, but they don't eat a single thing. They're allergic to shellfish. There was a crucial step that you overlooked: understanding your guests' needs and preferences. And you know what? It's exactly the same in business. On the flip side, imagine if you took the time to understand your guests' preferences. You discovered their love for Italian cuisine, their dietary restrictions, and their curiosity to try new, healthy twists on classic dishes. When you've got this insight, you can craft a menu that's not only delicious, but also perfectly tailored to delight them. Now, I know that this is a silly analogy, but it's a perfect way to describe market research. It's all about finding out what our audience wants before we ever go ahead and create it. So I want to tell you a story about my client, Rosie. Some of you might know her. Her business is Rosemary Nutrition, and she is an expert vegan dietitian. She has written for The Happy Pear and Deliciously Ella, and she's very highly regarded in the plant-based nutrition space. When she came to me, she wanted to monetize her large Instagram audience of nearly 10,000 followers. She was working for the NHS and she was seeing clients one-to-one in her freelance business. But she had this huge untapped audience of fans and she liked the idea of an online course. Initially, our plan was to create a course on vegan nutrition to help people follow a vegan diet properly with meal ideas and recipes and shopping guides. But when she went away and did her market research, she discovered that actually that was not what her audience wanted. They wanted to learn how to manage their weight effectively while still staying true to their vegan diet. In fact, this was such a surprise that I encouraged Rosie to explore this a bit further and do even more market research to refine exactly what it was that her Instagram followers wanted. And that led her to create her course called the Flourishing Vegan Weight Loss Program. She sold out her program from one announcement to her Instagram audience before she'd even created a single part of the course. Now, that is the power of effective market research. But just imagine how this could have been a very different story if Rosie had created her How to Be Vegan course without doing her market research. And sadly, this is a story that I hear all too often from very highly skilled and very enthusiastic healthcare professionals who create these amazing offers, but no one buys them. They've created something that they want to share with people, but it's not actually what their audience wants to buy. So let's go through how to actually do market research. First of all, I only want you to conduct market research with your ideal client and people you've never met before. If you don't know who your ideal client is and where to find them, you need to go and do that piece of work first. But never do market research with family, with friends, or even past clients, because these people like you. They've got an emotional connection with you. And what happens is that they will give you false positive answers for the sake of being polite or not wanting to hurt your feelings, rather than their honest, truthful opinion. So go to your social media audience or your email list or forums or other people's Facebook groups where you already know your ideal client hangs out. And when you're there, simply ask for volunteers. Now, most people love to share their opinions on a topic, so it's unlikely that you're going to be short of volunteers. But if you wanted to offer an incentive to encourage people to spare their time, you can absolutely do that. Often just offering them the opportunity to ask you questions at the end of the call will be enough. Or you could sweeten the deal with a freebie or one of your low-cost offers given for free. You also need to make sure that you're getting the right people into your market research. You want to be asking qualifying questions. If I was doing some baby weaning market research, I might prefix my request with, I'm looking for 5 first-time mums with babies between the ages of 4 and 6 months who've not started solids yet. So this way, I can be absolutely sure that I'm going to get exactly who I need. First-time mums, babies of the right age, and before they've started weaning. I think it's worth a mention at this point that if you're doing market research with a view to putting together an offer and you're new to business, or perhaps you don't have an established audience to ask, now's not the time to be putting together an offer. You need to go back a few steps and spend a bit more time and energy on growing an audience so that you have got people ready to sell to. You can, of course, conduct market research at any point in your business journey. And if you're just starting to understand your niche and who your ideal customer might be, this is a great thing to do. But your questions will be different because you'll be wanting to find out the basics, like who they are, where do they consume their information, what are their interests, what are their struggles, their problems, and how does this impact on their everyday lives? So you can carry out market research in various different ways. And I'm going to take you through my top 5 suggestions. Number 1 is interviews. These are face-to-face discussions that happen either in real life or online. Now, I highly recommend that you do these using video conferencing software if you're conducting them online, rather than just a phone call. And that's so that you can observe and respond to each other's body language and record the conversation. Likewise, if you're meeting someone in real life, record an audio file of the conversation, as you'll want to go back over what they told you afterwards. Listen out for common phrases or words that your potential clients use, because you'll want to keep a language bank of these to sprinkle through your marketing material in the future. Number 2 are focus groups. So these are small groups of people who you bring together and facilitate a discussion around some predefined topics. So what's great about focus groups is that the members will bounce ideas around. Perhaps one will prompt a thought from another member that wouldn't have been elicited otherwise. The downside of focus groups is that sometimes people refrain from speaking their mind because they're in a group setting. But again, I want you to record the conversations so that you can revisit them after the event. You'll likely want to watch back these a few times because you'll notice new things each time you do. And it's a good idea to take a note of your participants' facial expressions and body language to see when they get excited or more animated when talking about a certain topic. Number 3 is data and analytics. So you should absolutely dive into any public records and published data that's relevant for your niche. So, for example, as an online business coach, I like to keep an eye on the popularity of the various different social media channels and the demographic data of the people who are using them. And in my nutrition business, public data tells me that there are more babies born in September, which means that come February and March time, 5 to 6 months later, parents will be starting to think about weaning. Also, take a look at your own stats, like your social media analytics. You'll get demographic data, including age and gender, where in the world your followers are coming from, and check out your website stats. If you publish blogs, it can be really helpful to gather information on what topics your audience resonate with the most, what was popular, and actually what didn't do so well. Number 4 are surveys. Now, online surveys are a great way to collect a lot of information about your target audience in a relatively short amount of time. You can use software like a Google Form or Typeform or SurveyMonkey to put together and distribute a questionnaire. Just be mindful that the more questions you ask, the less likely people are to fill it out. So really think about the quality of the questions that you're going to include. You want to aim for about 5 or 6. You could offer an incentive to encourage people to fill out your forms, such as putting their names in a hat to win a free one-to-one consultation with you or a place on your new program. The higher the value of the prize, the more likely people will take part. But do make sure that the prize is something that your ideal client wants and that other people don't. I've seen people offer things like iPads as a prize, for example. But if you do something like that, chances are you'll get anyone who fancies an iPad filling out your survey and not your ideal customer, and the quality of your results will suffer. And number 5 is online marketplaces. Another great place to dive into market research is just to pay a visit to places like Amazon and Etsy. Type in the topic that you're researching and see what comes up. And then filter by the 1-star reviews. This will give you a really good idea of what people feel is missing from the products and the services that are currently available. The next question I bet you're thinking is, Sarah, what questions do I ask? And actually, the answer to that depends on the purpose of the market research. You're going to need to spend a little time here really thinking about the purpose of each question. What is it that you need to know from your people? Your questions really should be open-ended in the main. You don't want to lead your participants in any way. You want to sit back and let them talk. So if you're running interviews, it's actually best if you just leave them unstructured. With focus groups, you will benefit from having a loose structure just to guide the group, but think of your role as a facilitator rather than an interviewer. And with online forms, you will need some specific questions to ask. And actually, this is where closed questions that elicit a yes or a no response might actually be quite helpful for you. For example, if you work in the fitness space and you're pretty sure that your audience wants to change their shape, you might ask them a closed question like, are you satisfied with your current body shape, to elicit the majority rule. So here are some questions that you could ask, but use these as a bouncing off point and let them spark other questions, because honestly, there's no right or wrong here. I'm going to continue with the fitness example, but switch this out for your own area of expertise. Tell me about your fitness as it feels now, and just let people talk. What are your biggest frustrations with trying to improve your endurance? Why do you think that this has been a struggle for you? How long has it been going on? Where do you feel stuck? One of my favorite questions is, if I could wave a magic wand and get you the results that you're after, what would those results look like? Is there anyone out there who offers this solution already and does it really well? If so, who is that? If there's one thing that could be added to make their solution even better, what would that be? These questions are actually really great at identifying who your competitors might be. And then afterwards, you can go and take a look at their websites and their social media channels to see what it is that they're offering. What have you already tried to improve in your sports performance that hasn't worked? If you haven't tried anything yet, I'm curious to know what stopped you from taking action before. That question will help them identify what their limiting beliefs are. Next, you could try and get them to visualize what the future might look like when their problem has gone away. Now, this is really important to understand what their desires are and what they actually do want. How would you feel if you could get a solution to this problem? What would life look like for you? Next, you might want to try and find out about their learning style. If you were to purchase a solution that promised you results, how would you like to be taught? One-to-one, online, group setting, video, audio, workbook, etc., etc. And then you want to ask them, actually, what's most appealing to you about this particular method of learning? You could also ask whether they've ever watched videos or tutorials to help them with their fitness, their performance, their endurance. If so, were they helpful? And if so, did they actually take any action from them? And then you might want to find out where they spend most of their time online. Just ask them, do you spend your time on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google search, emails, you name it? And ask which social media accounts they follow as well. So that's a ton of ideas for you, and you won't want to ask them all. So do have a think about exactly what you need to know from your target audience at that point in time. Market research really isn't a one and done thing. You can never know too much about the audience that you're trying to serve. Okay, so there you have it. Now you know how important market research is when it comes to selling more of your products and services, and why you should absolutely not create a single offer without doing it first. I've talked you through my 5 ways to conduct market research and giving you a ton of suggestions for questions to ask. So your action step today is to go away and do some of that market research and find out what it is that your audience actually wants, which, as by now, it's often not what they need. So join me next time where we are diving into buyer psychology and the journey that your potential customer goes on before they ever decide to work with you. See you then.